At 15, I married Cui Zheng, the Marquis of Zhongshan, as his second wife. My mother said that if I treated others with sincerity, I would surely receive sincerity in return. However, Cui Zheng secretly laced my food and drink with mercury. He feared that if I bore children, I would no longer devote myself entirely to caring for his 2 children from his first wife. It wasn't until his deathbed that he held my hand and confessed, "I'm sorry, if there is a next life, I won't guard against you like this." After his death, my stepchildren drove me to a remote courtyard where I perished from illness and hardship. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the second year of my marriage. During the evening meal, I smiled warmly and scooped rice from my bowl into my stepdaughter and stepson's bowls. "Good children, eat more. There's plenty if you want seconds." After all, eating too much only leads to vomiting, stomach pain, infertility, and even keeps your corpse from decaying. Cui Zheng, terrified, shouted sharply, "Stop right there." After waking once more, scenes from my past life flashed through my mind like a revolving lantern. At 15, my father was promoted, and our family joyfully moved to the capital together. Before we had even settled in, the Marquis of Zhongshan's estate, the Cui family, came to propose marriage, wanting me to become the second wife to their heir, Cui Zheng. Although the Marquis status was slightly higher than ours, my mother had no intention of climbing the social ladder and only frowned, saying, "Being a second wife is no easy task. It's never as good as being the first spouse. Besides, noble households may look glamorous on the outside, but life inside isn't necessarily better." My mother's words were pearls of wisdom. Unfortunately, I was young and naive, unaware of the dangers in people's hearts, and I believed my aunt's deceitful words. "What do you know, sister, in law, that Cui Zheng, heir to the Marquis of Zhongshan, is not even 25, in his prime and highly trusted by His Majesty. If it weren't for him seeking a second wife, our Ruowei wouldn't even be considered. Yes, his previous wife left behind 2 children, but once Ruowei enters their household, she can have more. Men always dote on the youngest. How would we be at a disadvantage? An opportunity like this won't come again." To persuade me to agree, my aunt even secretly arranged for Cui Zheng and me to coincidentally meet at Xianghua Temple. Back then, I was a maiden full of springtime dreams. The moment I saw Cui Zheng, tall, graceful, and extraordinary in demeanor, my face flushed instantly. After returning home, I shyly told my mother that I wished to accept this marriage proposal. My mother tried to dissuade me several times to no avail, so she had no choice but to agree. Just before the wedding, my mother earnestly advised me, "Since you are to become a part of the Cui family, treat them well. Sincerity begets sincerity. You will never lose out." My mother was truly a good person, and I was truly naive and foolish. It was only later that I gradually learned Cui Zheng and his former wife, Lady Lin, were childhood sweethearts deeply in love. When Lady Lin passed away from a sudden illness, Cui Zheng was nearly broken with grief. It was said that if not for their 2 children, he would have surely ended his life to follow his departed wife. He remained in deep despair for a full 2 years. Later, only out of necessity, to have someone manage the household and care for his young children and elderly parents, did he reluctantly agree to take a second wife. These hidden circumstances circulated only among noble families, and respectable households were unwilling to marry their daughters into such a situation. Those minor families who only sought wealth and status were looked down upon by the Cui family. Our family had just arrived in the capital, so naturally, no one told us about this. On the contrary, the Cui family had thoroughly inquired about me, hearing that my father was steady in his conduct. My brother excelled in the imperial examination, and I had a reputation for virtue, grace, and beauty. They came to propose marriage. Seeing that my mother was hesitant, Cui Ming, the eldest daughter of the Cui family, secretly bribed my aunt. She had my aunt sing nothing but praises of them to me. My aunt's family had followed us to the capital under the pretense of serving my grandfather together, but in truth, They were always jealous of my father and brother's success and brighter prospects. At the time, I thought it was a stroke of luck, such a good marriage falling into my lap, and I desperately wanted to seize it. Little did I know that Cui Zheng was nothing but poison wrapped in honey, something that would eventually cost lives. Afterward, I married into the Marquis of Zhongshan's estate with a heart full of tenderness. I rose early and worked late managing household affairs, serving my in-laws, and caring for the children. Yet, Cui Zheng remained indifferent and aloof toward me, never showing any care or concern. I thought to myself, his inability to forget his deceased wife showed deep devotion. Such a man was even more precious. So I humbled myself further, serving diligently and conscientiously. Once I entered the noble household, half a lifetime passed just like that. By the time I had attended to my in-laws until their passing and raised both children to adulthood, I realized I had nothing left but a broken body and lingering illnesses. Utterly alone, on his deathbed, Cui Zheng seemed remorseful. Trembling, he grasped my hand and confessed the truth. It turned out he had been secretly dosing my meals with mercury, because mercury could prevent pregnancy. Only if I had no children of my own would I wholeheartedly care for his late wife's children. I'm sorry. I never imagined you would be so selfless and virtuous, treating us so kindly. If there is a next life, I won't guard against you like this. After his death, my stepson drove me into a small courtyard. Due to the mercury accumulated in my body, I had long been suffering in agony, and it wasn't long before I died, filled with resentment and grief. On my deathbed, I hated myself for being so foolish, exchanging sincerity for sincerity. My heart is human, but it could never win over the heart of a beast. A person's death may be as light as a feather or as weighty as Mount Tai. If I die like this, would I be worthy of my parents and brothers, of my ancestors and country? How I hate this. I would drag myself to hell just to kill Cui Zheng. When I opened my eyes again, I caught the scent of osmanthus blossoms. This tree was planted by Cui Zheng's late wife and was his most treasured possession. In the early years of my marriage, Cui Zheng would often sit motionless, chin in hand, staring at the tree as if seeing her in its branches. Truly a wretched man. Dazed for a moment, I realized the fragrance felt too real, and the scene before me was identical to when I first married into the Cui household. Have I come back to life? Calling my maid Sky to my side, I softly asked, "What year is it now?" Sky whispered, "Miss, have you forgotten? It's the year of Yongsheng." I had returned to the second year of my marriage into the Cui family. What do the heavens intend? Why grant me a second chance, only to bring me back to this moment? If only I could return to the time before I was wed. How perfect that would be. Lost in thought, Sky reminded me, "Miss, it's time to go to the main house for dinner." Indeed, I am still a daughter. In law of the Cui family, Cui Zheng's parents are still alive. His sister Cui Ming is already married, so there are only 5 of them in the household. My harsh mother, in law, had me follow strict etiquette for over half a year. She made me stand behind her during dinner, serving the Cui family from start to finish. Cui Zheng's son and daughter, only 5 and 6 years old, would constantly ask for soup, water, rice, or dishes, leaving me exhausted and sore every day. Later, it was Cui Zheng who spoke up for me, and my mother, in law, finally excused me from the etiquette, allowing me to eat in peace. At that time, I was very grateful to Cui Zheng, thinking my mother was right. If I treated him with sincerity, he would eventually show me compassion. But in truth, Cui Zheng only pretended to help me so he could more easily poison my food. I took a deep breath and said to Sky, "All right, I'll get ready. You go to the small kitchen and boil a pot of water. Remember, it must be scalding hot water." Sky looked puzzled. "Miss?" I smiled faintly. "Just go." Before leaving, the water was ready. I took it in hand and slowly poured the boiling water over the osmanthus tree roots. From today onward, pour 3 pots of boiling water daily. Let it wallow in sentimental sorrow, full of deep affection. I'll drown it to death. When I reached the main house, I was slightly late. My mother, in law, sneered, The whole family is here, waiting only for you. It seems we still need to enforce some discipline. This old hag loved putting on her mother-in-law airs to lecture others. It was said Shui Zhang's late wife, Lady Lin, suffered much under her torment. Her passing at such a young age was largely thanks to my wonderful mother-in-law. How hateful that Shui Zheng dared not resent his own mother, leaving me alone to endure this abuse. I smiled slightly and stood respectfully behind my mother-in-law. What are you saying, mother? It is only right for your daughter-in-law to stand by your side and serve you. With that, I began serving her rice and dishes. Her expression shifted. What are you doing? I said, no need for formalities. You're the only one who insists on putting on a show. I said softly, Mother, how can you say that? It is my blessing to serve you and learn how to be a better person by your side. After speaking, I placed a piece of her favorite crab meat lion's head meatball into her bowl. Seeing no resentment in my expression, my mother-in-law finally relaxed and said, Humph, at least you know your place. For now, I won't be eating with them. Otherwise, how could I avoid the mercury that seems to seep in everywhere? Over the years, I've come to realize that since the dishes are shared, poisoning them would be difficult. So, the mercury must have been placed specifically in my rice. And so, I continued to serve my mother-in-law. Shui Zheng showed no expression throughout, as if completely indifferent, but I caught his gaze sweeping over my rice bowl several times. This confirmed that my suspicions were correct. Just then, both children ran out of rice and asked the servant to bring more. In a swift motion, I quickly scooped my rice into their bowls and said, with a warm smile, Eat this. It's just the right temperature. Good children, eat up. The two children, still young, did not hold much hostility toward me and happily accepted the bowls. I sneered coldly, Eat, go on, eat too much. And not only will you become infertile, but you'll also suffer vomiting, abdominal pain, difficulty breathing, and in the end, even your corpse won't decompose. Shui Zheng, terrified, shot to his feet and shouted sharply, Stop eating. His voice was so loud it nearly shattered my eardrums. Everyone at the table was startled by him. A maid serving nearby spilled the soup in fright. My mother-in-law and father-in-law scowled and said, What are you doing? Such shouting and carrying on. How utterly unbecoming. I took half a step back in feigned disbelief, pretending to be hurt. Husband, could it be that, as your second wife, I'm not even fit to serve the children their meal? Shui Zheng paused, then said, Well, the food has gone cold. Better change the bowl. Naturally, he wouldn't poison his own precious darlings. But before he could finish, I was already in tears. I cried out in anguish. So, in my husband's eyes, I am so unworthy of trust. I don't even have the right to serve these two children. For 2 years, I've risen early and worked late, respected my in-laws, cared for the children, and been utterly devoted to you. Heaven is my witness. The sun and moon can testify. Pitiful that my foolish devotion has been misplaced all along. In-laws. Shui Zheng. What are you making a scene about? It's just a trivial matter. I didn't wait for him to continue. Took out a handkerchief to cover my face, pretended to be overwhelmed, and dashed out in a flash. Sky followed behind me, shouting, Miss, please don't do anything rash, Miss, leaving the Chui family staring at each other in bewilderment. After returning, I naturally fell ill. Not only was I ill, but I made sure to raise a clamor, having people shout and clamor to call for a doctor. In the dead of night, I woke up the entire Chui household. Of course, the doctor I called was not the Chui family's usual Dr. Li. That quack came every month to check my pulse and never once mentioned my mercury poisoning. It must have been the Chui family's doing. This time, I invited the renowned old Dr. Song from the city. After his examination, he told me I had liver deficiency, kidney stagnation, and poor blood circulation, and subtly asked if I had ingested anything improper. During this period, my body had already been affected by mercury, showing symptoms like chest tightness and shortness of breath. which I had mistaken for menstrual irregularities or overexertion. In truth, I was poisoned. If this continued, I would surely meet the same fate as before. From then on, I began focusing on recuperation. I intended to return the Chui family's mess to them and secretly uncover the one who administered the poison. The poisoner must undoubtedly be a servant of the Chui household. It could be someone from the kitchen or those serving during meals. Investigating discreetly would take some time. Only by securing both witnesses and evidence could I properly pursue a divorce. Otherwise, if I returned to my parents' home and complained about a difficult mother-in-law, spiteful sisters-in-law, and a cold husband, even with a mother as doting as mine, such reasons alone would not suffice for her to agree to my leaving the Chui family. Seeing me begin to live in seclusion and indulge in comfort, Sky grew somewhat concerned. She said, "We've worked so hard these past 2 years to get everything in order throughout the Marquis estate. To hand it over now would mean all that effort was for nothing. The Chui family has many long-serving old servants, all cunning, lazy, greedy, and slippery as eels. After I took charge as butler, they gave me no end of trouble. It took going through many trials and expending considerable effort just to barely keep these people in check. But in truth, the Chui family only superficially handed over the butler's authority to me. The funds I could actually use were limited, and sometimes I even had to rely on my own dowry to make ends meet. Every day was a whirl of busyness and toil, without even a moment to rest. I had hoped to please everyone and make them all think well of me. How naive I was. I said to Sky, "Silly girl, let's just focus on safeguarding our private savings, farmlands, and shops. Why bother with them? After all, that incident will soon occur. This time, without my involvement. I'm curious to see how the Chui family will handle it." Sky didn't understand why my temperament had changed so drastically, but she was utterly loyal and obediently did as I instructed. What she didn't know was that in a month's time, Chui Zhang's son, young Master Leo of the Marquis of Zhongshan's estate, would accidentally fall into the water. In my past life, I poured my heart and soul into being good to Leo. I pitied him for losing his mother at such a young age, and always wanted to treat him well. Back then, I noticed that the maids and nannies around Leo weren't fully devoted to their duties, but they were all left behind by Chui Zhang's deceased wife, Lady Lin, and none of them respected me, showing allegiance only to the Lin family. They feared that Leo and I would develop a bond, causing him to disregard the Lin family, so they constantly whispered ill of me in his ear. "The mistress is your stepmother, and all stepmothers in this world have black hearts. Her kindness to you is just a facade. How could it compare to our genuine care? Once she has her own child in the future, she'll see you as an obstacle in her way." Even Lady Lin's sister-in-law would frequently visit this estate. On the surface, they seemed concerned about Leo, but in reality, they feared he would grow distant from them, losing future opportunities to benefit. So, whenever Leo showed even a little fondness for me, they would inevitably scheme and sow discord. Yet I paid no mind. Instead, I noticed that the nannies and servants around Leo were rather incompetent and mentioned it to Chui Zhang twice. Chui Zhang, with his petty suspicions, only guarded against me and refused to let me intervene. He even claimed that the people Lady Lin left behind had watched Leo grow up and were the best for him. Uneasy, I secretly had someone keep an eye on them. Sure enough, a month later, while Leo was playing by the pond, his wet nurse slipped away to relax under a tree. The maids had also wandered off somewhere, and as a result, the child accidentally fell into the water. If not for my people reporting in time and me jumping into the river to rescue Leo, who knows if he would have lived or died. Later, I caught a cold and fell seriously ill, but Sister Lin told Leo, "How could things in the world be so coincidental? The moment he fell into the water, you showed up. It must have been staged by you yourself, just to win people over." Leo believed it and grew to resent me even more. What was most infuriating was Chui Zhang. He knew the whole story from start to finish, had severely punished and intimidated those servants, yet refused to explain to Leo, allowing him to misunderstand me and driving us further apart. Looking back now, the malice in that man's heart is truly unimaginable. Now that I've washed my hands of it all, let's see just how well they can manage. With that, I whispered a few instructions to Sky, and she lowered her head and went to carry them out. After I stepped back for half a month, everything in the household fell into chaos. My mother-in-law, who had enjoyed 2 years of leisure, took up the butler role again, but couldn't match my attention to detail in anything. She struggled for less than 10 days before taking to her bed, unable to get up, complaining of headaches, leg pains, body aches. Basically, everything hurt. She even sent her matron to pressure me, urging me to recover quickly so I could continue toiling for her like an ox. I naturally refused, playing sick. Did you think only you knew how? I can do it too. Seeing I wouldn't take the easy way out, my mother-in-law came to my courtyard, playing the elder card to force me out of bed. I lay motionless in bed, coughing a few times before saying, "This illness of mine won't clear up anytime soon. The doctor says I may have been poisoned. Such a serious matter might even require reporting to the authorities." Her pupils dilated, lips trembling. My mother-in-law looked utterly shocked. She knew perfectly well about Cui Zheng dosing me with mercury. She just took advantage of my youth and ignorance. Fearing I'd escalate the matter, she dared not make any more demands. But with no one else to manage the household, she had no choice but to complain to Cui Zheng, asking her precious, unworldly son to deal with me. These past 2 years, Cui Zheng claimed official duties kept him busy, usually staying in his study. He only came to my room to rest on the 1st and 15th of each month. It wasn't until he gradually let down his guard that he began visiting more frequently. That night, Cui Zheng came to my chamber. Seeing it was an ordinary day, Sky couldn't conceal her delight. "Miss, the young master must be coming personally to make amends." The silly girl still thought my changed demeanor was due to Cui Zheng scolding me at the main house for serving the children from my own bowl that day. She believed I'd been holding a grudge all along. After a moment's thought, I said, "Tell him I'm unwell and cannot rise, lest I pass my illness to him. I haven't yet identified the servant who poisoned me, so I must remain undercover in the Cui household for now, but that doesn't mean I'll pretend courtesy with him." Sky showed a flicker of disappointment, hesitated briefly, then nodded, "Yes." But the moment she turned to leave, Cui Zheng's voice carried from outside. "Why have so many leaves on this osmanthus tree turned yellow? How have you been tending to it daily?" "We've been diligently watering it with 3 kettles of boiling water each day." The servants in the courtyard trembled with fear, not daring to even breathe loudly. After a moment, Cui Zheng roared loudly, "What? Am I not allowed to visit my wife in her sick room?" Then he stormed in with such force that he nearly tore down the curtain over my door. A room full of delicate maids naturally couldn't stop a man like him. I waved my hand, and after a moment of hesitation, everyone withdrew, seeing me sitting perfectly well on the couch with rosy cheeks, enjoying pastries. Cui Zheng couldn't help but feel a surge of anger. "Rowan Huang, how long are you going to keep this up?" I stared coldly at Cui Zheng, feeling nothing but disgust. How could I have ever fancied him in the past? Was I truly so blind and foolish? Thinking this, I said calmly, "Your wife has been ill, taking so much medicine and enduring so much suffering these days. Yet I've never seen any concern from you, my husband. Now that we finally meet, all I get are misunderstandings and accusations? Humph, it truly chills the heart." Cui Zheng, who had never been subjected to such sarcasm from me before, was momentarily stunned. I lazily lifted my eyelids, glanced at him, and said, "I am unwell and need to retire early. If you have no urgent matter, I won't detain you further." After speaking, I picked up my teacup. Cui Zheng gave a startled, cold laugh and said, Fine. I offered you a way out, but you refused to take it. So be it. We'll see how you handle the consequences." He turned to leave but paused abruptly. "Since marrying into the Cui family, you should know your place and share the household burdens. Did you think you could just idle away your responsibilities?" Then, in a commanding tone, he added, "Tomorrow, go to mother and retrieve the butler's token. Also, arrange for Leo's enrollment at Scholar Zhuang's academy. Promptly. All this time, I've truly been too lenient with him. How dare he even mention Scholar Zhuang's academy? In the capital, Scholar Zhuang's academy has gained great renown, and everyone wishes to enroll their children there. But Scholar Zhuang is a man of integrity who disdains spoiled nobles, preferring to admit only students from humble, scholarly families. In my past life, I was the one who eagerly rushed back to my parents' home to beg my father, relying on his old school ties with Scholar Zhuang to secure a spot. I will never do such foolish things to please him again. Cui Zheng, I tell you plainly, I cannot handle the butler's duties. And don't even think of coming to me about the school matter. You wouldn't even dare to let Leo eat the food I serve. So naturally, any school I recommend would be deemed unworthy to. Moreover, Rowan Huang, was properly wed into your family with 3 matchmakers and 6 betrothal gifts, carried in a grand procession of 8 bearers. I am not your family servant. Stop ordering me around. Cui Zheng turned around in astonishment. You. His gaze was fierce, as if it could burn a hole through me. I sneered, fearlessly pointing at his nose and enunciating each word clearly. Rowan Huang, swear to heaven that I will not waste the slightest bit of care on your Cui family again, because all of you are wretched souls who mistake kindness for malice. Perhaps it was my overwhelming aura, or perhaps Cui Zheng felt guilty. He left with a dismissive wave of his sleeve, muttering unreasonable as he departed. I felt refreshed and invigorated, with much of the gloom in my chest dissipating. I should have realized long ago that Cui Zheng had only ever brought me suffocation and pain. For such a wicked person, only sharp words and a stern attitude are appropriate. After that, we reached a stalemate. Cui Zheng, having been humiliated, refused to back down. I, in turn, no longer coaxed him with the cautious care I once did. Yet, the only one suffering from this outcome was my mother-in-law. She was desperate for me to continue toiling tirelessly, but even after deploying her ultimate tactics, I remained unfazed and fearless. Thus, she found herself at a loss with me. After all, it's unheard of for a daughter-in-law, bedridden with illness, to still be expected to slave away. A few more days passed, and my mother-in-law finally found an ally. My elder sister-in-law, Cui Ming, returned to her maiden home. Cui Ming was 3 years older than Cui Zheng and had married several years prior. She had been spoiled growing up and, upon coming of age, defied her parents' wishes to marry a poor scholar she had set her heart on. That scholar failed in his studies, yet squandered money extravagantly every day. Each time he returned to my parents' home, Cui Ming would come laden with packages, always leaving after thoroughly exploiting their generosity. In my past life, Cui Ming knew exactly how to manipulate me, often saying, the previous sister-in-law was so virtuous, handling everything herself. You shouldn't fall behind either, whether you're sincere or not. My brother will naturally know. If you want to win his heart, you must put in some effort. When Lady Lin was here, she treated me like her own sister. Sister-in-law, that gold necklace of yours is truly beautiful. Because I was desperate to please them, whenever Cui Ming coveted my dowry or jewelry, I would hand it over without hesitation. But in truth, it was she who bribed my jealous and harsh aunt, ruining my entire life. When Sky came to inform me, the miss spoke with the madam for half a shirtchen 2 hours, and is now heading toward our courtyard. It seems my mother-in-law has complained, and Cui Ming has come under orders to lecture me. I let out a light laugh. How self-important he thinks he is. Then I called Sky and Kaiing over and spoke a few words to them. Sky said in surprise, Is that feasible? Kaiing patted her chest and said, Miss, just leave it to me. When Cui Ming's dainty feet arrived at my courtyard, I directly ordered people to block her at the gate. Sky said politely, Our miss is gravely ill and fears passing the sickness to you, so she won't be receiving visitors today. Cui Ming hadn't expected that I wouldn't even let her through the door. She planted her hands on her hips and sneered. What airs you put on, sister? In law, refusing to see an elder? Aren't you afraid of becoming a laughingstock? At that moment, Kaiying stepped out and declared with full vigor. Our miss said that, given her severe illness and fear of infecting the masters of the Marquis's household, she ought to return to her maternal home to recuperate. But the Marquise had warned her. A married woman must prioritize her husband's family above all else, and must not return to her parents' home at will, lest she violate the virtues expected of a wife. She smiled at Cui Ming. Oh dear, Madam Cui, this servant certainly isn't referring to you. This is a sarcastic jab at Cui Ming for frequently visiting her parents' home to freeload on their food and hospitality. Kaiying truly lived up to being the sharpest, tongued among my dowry maids, striking right at the heart of the matter with just a few words. Cui Ming trembled with rage, shouting, "How dare a mere servant talk back to her mistress? Someone, slap her mouth." As soon as she finished, several maids beside her moved forward to strike. Quick-witted, Kaiying retreated into my room, leaving Sky outside with a group of maids and servants to smooth things over. Don't be angry, madam. This girl is just blunt and ill-mannered. I'll punish her severely when we return. Cui Ming knew full well this was just an excuse, but kept insisting relentlessly that Kaiying be beaten to death. Kaiying poked her head out and quipped playfully, "Oh my, troubling madam to worry, though I am a servant. I am not a servant of your Cui family. You have no right to order me beaten or killed. Truly, a dog catching mice, meddling in others' business. Just a married daughter of the family. Yet you overreach far too much. Every time she comes to our Mrs. Place, she's always looking for handouts. She even goes after Mrs. Dowry jewelry and antiques. Such behavior from a fallen noble house's daughter really opens this servant's eyes." Lark's words were sharp and ruthless, striking right at Ming Chui's heart. Sky pretended to scold from the side. "You little wench, shut your mouth." "Ah, madam, please be magnanimous. Don't take offense." The two of them played good cop and bad cop, making Ming Chui so furious she nearly exploded. You go too far. Is this still the Chui family? When did the Chui family ever let lowly servants like you lecture me? Rowan Huang, come out. I never showed my face from start to finish, only drinking tea in my room and listening to the jokes. Ming Chui was furious, arguing with two maids in broad daylight. Whether she won or lost, she'd be the one losing face. I'm tearing off all pretenses now. What can she, a married woman, even do to me? Left with no choice, she returned to her mother, in law's place. Weeping so bitterly, she soaked several handkerchiefs. When Cui Zheng returned home, Cui Ming ordered him to discipline me. But Cui Zheng was in the midst of a cold war with me and outright ignored the request, making excuses before slipping away. Furious, the mother-daughter pair spent the entire evening cursing my name through gritted teeth. Just like that, half a month slipped by. Finally, the day arrived when Leo would fall into the water. I had calculated the exact day and time, instructing everyone in my quarters to stay within the courtyard to avoid being falsely accused. Sky specially cut open a large watermelon sent from the estate, grainy and sweet, soaked in well water for half a day. It was ice, cold and thirst, quenching. I recalled how in the past, whenever my estate produced delicacies or novelties, I would first send them to Cui Zheng, his parents, and the children. Better to have fed them to the dogs. Truth be told, I sometimes wondered, by the time I died, Leo would have been over 20 years old, a full, grown man. Does he genuinely believe I've treated him poorly? Or does he understand everything but is simply selfish? As I pondered this, someone rushed in panic to report that Leo had accidentally fallen into the pond. By the time he was pulled out, his breathing was faint and labored. At such a moment, it would be inappropriate for me not to show myself. So I went to Leo's courtyard with Sky and Kaiying. From a distance, I saw a crowd gathered, with people bustling in and out of the courtyard. Inside the room, layers of people surrounded him. I sneered coldly. With so many crowding around now, aren't they afraid he can't breathe? What fools. Entering the room, I heard the doctor say grimly, "He was underwater too long, now unconscious. Even if he wakes, he might be left mentally impaired." I sneered coldly. It seems without my timely rescue, this would have been Leo's fate. I recall once asking him why he hated me so much. He retorted defiantly, "You're not my real mother. How could you truly care for me? You're just putting on a show to deceive us." I no longer play the part. You must calmly accept the fate that has been arranged. My mother, in law, stared in disbelief, wailing, "This can't be. This can't be. He was my only golden grandson." Shui Zhang's veins bulged on his forehead as he roared, "Beat to death every maid and nanny attending Leo." Outside the window, the servants' pleas for mercy rose and fell in waves. "Master, spare us. Master, for the sake of your late wife, grant us our wretched lives. The young master was harmed by someone. It wasn't our fault." Oh, still trying to shift the blame onto me. Seeing me enter, my mother, in law, lunged at me, snarling, "It was you. You harmed Leo. It was you." I stepped back unhurriedly. "Mother, has grief addled your senses?" Fury overwhelmed her, and she nearly spat blood. She shrieked, "Who could Leo, so young, have offended in this whole household? Only he stood in your way. You venomous woman, give me back my golden grandson." After listening to her hysterics, I responded calmly, "I have been ill for over a month and haven't even stepped out of my room. My dowry servants have stayed with me the entire time, and none have left the courtyard. Since marrying into the Marquis household, I've twice suggested to my husband that the maids and nannies attending Leo were not diligent enough, urging him to replace them with more reliable caretakers. Once on the 6th day of the first lunar month last year, and again on the 13th day of the 8th month this year, my husband replied thus, 'The people left by Lady Lin are the most loyal and dependable. Do not meddle in this.' I said coldly, 'I cannot bear such accusations. Mother, if I am to be unjustly slandered, the Huang family will not stand idly by. Let us report this to the authorities and have them investigate thoroughly.' My mother, in law, had not expected such firmness from me and was momentarily speechless. To cover her embarrassment, she feigned dizziness. 'Oh, my head. Oh, I'm dying. I cannot go on like this.' Maids and nannies rushed forward to support her and lead her away. Only after the troublemakers had left did I notice little Leo lying pale, faced on the couch. His sister, Jane, was terrified, frozen still in the arms of her wet nurse. Alas, the pitiful often have their own despicable traits. I sighed and said to the doctor, 'Please do your best.' Nowadays, I just go through the motions for appearance's sake. As I stepped out of the courtyard, Cui Zheng followed me. He stood alone at the gate, unusually pensive, gazing at me with a lost expression. I raised an eyebrow and asked, 'Is something wrong?' Cui Zheng sighed, bewildered, and said, 'Why do you ignore Leo and talk back to Mother? Why have you changed so much? Before you weren't like this at all.' Seeing a hint of regret in his eyes, I understood. He was trying to use this as a stepping stone to reconcile with me. Unfortunately, I wouldn't let him have his way. I retorted, 'In the past, I was gentle and virtuous, always putting you first. Did you ever love or respect me for it?' Knowing I was honest and dutiful, Cui Zheng only deceived and manipulated me. Watching his silent, confused expression, I said calmly, 'No matter what I do, you're never satisfied, so I might as well do nothing.' As the ancient said, better to remain silent than speak 10,000 words and risk 10,000 mistakes. Speaking less and acting cautiously is the way to preserve oneself wisely. After saying this, I turned and left. Cui Zheng, fuming behind me, shouted angrily, 'Do you think you're so righteous? If you hadn't neglected your duties as matriarch, how could Leo have encountered such a thing?' Faced with such unreasonableness, I was no longer surprised. 'Your family should stop being named Shui and change to lie blame. Clearly, you distrust me, only believing blindly in everything left by predecessors. What logic is there in blaming me? If you had listened to me, Leo wouldn't have ended up like this. Cui Zheng, this was your own choice. The next day, my mother-in-law, unable to bear the shock, truly fell ill. The Chui household fell into chaos, but I continued feigning illness, turning a blind eye. The mess could only be cleaned up by Chui Zhang's father, my father-in-law. After sleeping for 3 days, Liu woke up indeed dull and senseless, having lost his wits. Because of this, the Lin family also sent someone. Sister-in-law Lin persistently demanded an explanation. Liu is truly pitiable. A child without a mother is like a blade of grass, left with no one to care for him. How did this happen? The Lin family deserves an explanation. Father-in-law fumed. An explanation? If it weren't for that wicked servant your Lin family raised, how would Liu have ended up like this? Sister-in-law Lin retorted. This happened at the Chui residence. What does it have to do with our Lin family? Father-in-law, you're being utterly unreasonable. Both sides pointed fingers and shifted blame, erupting into a heated argument. Before leaving, Sister-in-law Lin wiped her tears and cried, our Liu must have gotten in someone's way. Oh heavens, my poor sister's body isn't even cold yet, and her only son has turned into a fool. We've been wronged. What did she mean by that? Gotten in someone's way? It could only be in my way. Even after leaving, she still sows discord. But this matter had nothing to do with me from start to finish. No matter how much she fusses, it's useless. The Lin family came to make a scene a few times, but once they realized Liu was completely useless and no longer of any benefit, they simply stopped showing up. With this matter settled for now, Sky suddenly found a new lead. There was an old woman named Li in the kitchen who seemed highly suspicious. Sky watched her for a while and noticed she often acted furtively, with numerous jars and bottles of spices. If anyone accidentally touched her seasonings, she would fly into a rage. I nodded. Good, keep investigating. With so few people involved, we're bound to find out. After Liu became mentally impaired, his body and limbs remained unharmed. He spent his days running wildly around the Marquis estate, drooling and speaking nonsense. My father-in-law and mother-in-law would glance at him, then turn away with poorly concealed disgust. Gradually, even Shui Zheng became reluctant to mention his foolish son. After all, they all understood that Liu's life was effectively ruined. The only one who still cared for Liu was his sister, Jane. She was Chui Zhang's only daughter, raised in utmost luxury in her previous life as well. I hired renowned tutors for her, provided meticulous care, and devoted effort to finding her a suitable marriage. Unlike Liu, she didn't harbor hatred toward me. I thought she held some affection in her heart, but during my most desperate times, with my parents deceased and my elder brother serving as an official far away, I had no one to turn to and could only write to beg for her help. Yet Jane, unwilling to offend her own brother, watched indifferently as I died. The Chui family, truly, they're all the same. After Liu lost his senses, Jane often lingered outside my courtyard, her face full of longing. I simply pretended not to see. I even warned Sky and the others, never interfere with matters from Jane's courtyard. Not long after, Sky's investigation made progress. It was indeed Old Woman Li's doing. Old Woman Li's methods weren't sophisticated. I had simply never been on guard. I ordered people to secretly seize Old Woman Li's sons, daughters, and grandchildren. The old woman confessed everything. Chui Zheng gave the orders. The mercury was provided by my mother-in-law. Every month after Chui Zheng spent the night with me, Old Woman Li would silently add a trace of mercury to my meals. I let out a long, heavy sigh. So that's why, in my past life, I had been unable to conceive for all those years. Without hesitation, I returned to my parents' home and handed both the witness and the evidence over to my father and brother. Only then did my parents realize what kind of life I had been living in the Chui family. My mother held me, sobbing uncontrollably. I've seen mothers-in-law torment their daughters-in-law, but never such heartless, vicious ones. Serves them right that their precious Liu turned out a fool. My father and brother saw deeper into the matter and were even more enraged. After a long silence, My father finally asked, "What are your thoughts on this matter?" What he meant was whether I was still willing to return to the Chui family. After all, only half of what happened in my past life had unfolded. They didn't yet know how tragic my fate would become. Now that Leo had lost his wits, he could no longer inherit the title. Chui Zheng had no choice but to pin his hopes on me bearing him another legitimate son. Most women are forgiving and chaste, unwilling to serve a second husband. That's why men, though often fickle and heartless, are so readily forgiven and tolerated. My father wasn't sure whether I was willing to forgive Chui Zheng. I said firmly, "The Chui family are all heartless and faithless scoundrels. I would rather die than share a roof with such people." My father nodded and said gravely, "Then divorce it is. Life is hard enough for women in this world. Even divorce will bring scorn. We must ensure this disgrace falls squarely on the Chui family." My brother gritted his teeth and added, "Right, we must not let them off easily." With their approval, my heart finally settled, and I returned to the Chui residence to pack my belongings. Most of my dowry attendants in the courtyard knew what had happened and efficiently loaded my frequently used items onto the carriage. Chui Zheng received the news and rushed to stop me. "Ruowei, what are you doing?" Now that things had come to this, I could lay my cards on the table. "Chui Zheng, you know very well what you've done. I'm returning to my parents' home. I won't be staying with you anymore." Chui Zheng's face paled slightly. "Ruowei, let's talk this through properly. What will people say if you keep running back to your family?" I smiled faintly, still pretending. "The mercury you gave old woman Li, more precious than gold or silver. How generous of you." Heir apparent, Chui Zheng was taken aback as I exposed his scheme outright. Flustered, he tugged at my sleeve. "Ruowei, it's not what you think. I merely hoped you wouldn't conceive these years, waiting until Leo is older. I swear I'll give you a child of your own someday. Security in old age. Ha 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 ha." How laughable. When Chui Zheng turned 40, he was ambushed while on official duty. I infused medicine with my own blood and nursed him tirelessly for 5 days, snatching him back from the jaws of death. In that moment, he was genuinely moved. He secretly stopped poisoning my meals with mercury, stayed in my chamber nightly, intending to grant me a child for security. Yet fate had other plans. My body, eroded over the years, was already spent. I could bear no more children. Later, Chui Zheng drunkenly favored a maid by accident. Soon after, she was found with child. Chui Zheng said the maid's child could be registered under my name. I was even grateful to him for considering his childless wife. Yet even such a humble wish remained unfulfilled. Leo was already an adult by then, unwilling to tolerate potential rivals for the family fortune. He had someone push that maid. 2 lives lost in one body. That was when I understood. My stepson had grown powerful wings. He would never allow me to bear a child who might claim even a sliver of the Marquis estate's wealth. They even sought to seize all of my dowry. My kindness had only whetted their appetite. Chui Zheng's indulgence had nurtured their greed. It wasn't until Chui Zheng confessed on his deathbed about the mercury that my rage finally peaked. I sneered coldly. "Do you think I would stay here and continue this farce with you? If you could poison me with mercury before, you'd use arsenic next. Your Chui family is treacherous and vicious as a snake. I wish I'd never met you. There's only one thing left between us now: divorce." Chui Zheng's face paled, his cold arrogance finally crumbling. Ruowei, listen to me. Before, I doubted you and treated you coldly because we hadn't spent enough time together. I didn't dare trust fully. But after these 2 years together, I know you are a virtuous and kind woman. I'm willing to forget Lady Lin for you and open my heart. From now on, let us live in harmony as husband and wife, staying together forever. Please give me another chance. These words, I waited a lifetime for them in my past life, until the day I died. Now that I hear them so soon, it only proves how base human nature can be. I shook off Chui Zheng's hand and said coldly, "Matters of divorce will be discussed by my father and brothers. Between you and me, there is no longer any connection." But Chui Zheng, unwilling to yield, urgently pleaded, "Ruowei, I was wrong. I'll admit my fault. and accept punishment. From now on, I'll be devoted only to you. I'll let you bear children and appoint your son as heir." I nearly laughed aloud to the heavens 3 times. Is the heir of your Marquis of Zhongshan lined with gold? It's just a minor marquis title. If not for whatever favor Cui Zheng still holds with His Majesty these past few years, the Marquis of Zhongshan's estate would have long been in decline. In terms of real power, it's not as strong as my father's. In wealth, it's not even as substantial as my family's. Even if you poison me, I wouldn't leave. What do I say in you? Your endless supply of mercury? Your harsh and difficult mother? Your greedy and foolish sister? Or perhaps you're pretentious. So, called affection, Cui Zheng, once someone sees through you, you're utterly worthless. I poured out all my anger in one breath. All these years, you've pretended to remain devoted to your late wife, while treating me with indifference and constant criticism. If you truly loved Lady Lin, you should have remained unmarried forever, preserving your loyalty, taken proper care of her children. But what did you do? You schemed to marry me, took every advantage, yet never once considered my well-being. Cui Zheng wasn't blind to my suffering all these years. You just wanted to control me, leave me isolated and helpless, forcing me to desperately please you just to survive in the Cui household. Cui Zheng turned pale, staring at me blankly. No, roll away. I snapped sharply. Cui Zheng, I despise you. Every moment with you fills me with utter disgust. Cui Zheng was utterly shredded by my words. In his moment of distraction, I had already taken my people and belongings back to my parents' home. After leaving, my father and brother came to the Cui family to negotiate, demanding a divorce. The Cui family naturally refused to let me go, even though our dynasty has liberal customs. Allowing me to divorce so freely would leave the Marquis of Zhongshan's estate utterly disgraced. They assured my father and brother that they would treat me well in the future, and that Cui Zheng would turn over a new leaf. My father sneered, poisoning my daughter for 2 years. Do you think the Huang family has no one to stand up for her? We are ashamed to be associated with a family capable of such deeds. My brother declared, after the divorce, our families will have no further ties. If you refuse, we will not rest until this is settled, even if it means taking it to court. They came prepared, presenting various pieces of evidence. Old woman, Li's testimony, and the unused mercury. The evidence was undeniable. Some elders from the Marquis's collateral branches came to mediate, but were left speechless, their aged hands trembling as they lamented. A century of the estate's honorable reputation has been ruined by you. Its unworthy descendants. Cui Zheng's father slapped my mother. In law hard, this is all your wicked scheme. The Marquis of Zhongshan's estate had lost all dignity and credibility. Even if they didn't want to let me go, they couldn't possibly take this to court. Helpless, they had no choice but to sign the divorce papers. Before leaving, my father said bluntly, "Here is the list of my daughter's dowry. Compensate for all the losses over the years honestly. Or don't blame us for making a public spectacle and announcing it to the world." My brother added, "Even coveting my sister's dowry and calling yourselves a noble house. Disgraceful." The clan elders of the Marquis's estate, along with my in-laws, flushed with shame. After the divorce was finalized, my father spread the news. Everyone in the capital learned that the Marquis of Zhongshan's estate had fed me mercury to prevent me from bearing children. Tales of Cui Zheng's mother tormenting me and his elder sister constantly coming to sponge off me were also vividly circulated. Public opinion in the capital overwhelmingly sided with me. Many noble women whispered warnings, vowing never to marry their daughters into the Cui family. Eventually, even His Majesty came to know of it. Such a major scandal was enough to prove Cui Zheng's flawed character and lack of capability. Gradually, even His Majesty became reluctant to entrust him with important duties. Life after the divorce was better than I had imagined. Most people showed me sympathy. Even the more conservative families would reasonably admit this was indeed the Cui family's fault. Cui Zheng lay low for a while, but it wasn't long before he started writing me letters. He said that after I left, he often thought of me And every day, he would look at the orchids I had watered, seeing the object and longing for the person. He even included a few cloyingly sentimental poems. I was utterly disgusted and simply had someone ask him, "Is that osmanthus tree still alive?" Only then did Shui Zheng learn that I had poured boiling water on the osmanthus tree, scalding it to death. He stayed quiet for a few months. Then we accidentally met again at Xianghua Temple. This time, he was even wearing the same moon white robe he had on when we first met. Just who is he trying to disgust? He's completely acting like a buffoon. Seeing me turn to leave, Shui Zheng hurried after me and said with deep affection, "Ruowei, what a coincidence. Don't go. I truly wish to speak with you. I wronged you before. Do you know that? Recently, I had a long dream, like an illusion from Nank. In that dream, you treated me so well. We shared a loving lifetime together, and until my death, you were my deepest concern. Rest assured, I've thought it all through. I corrupted my own child and harmed you. Now, reborn through fire, I hope you'll grant me a chance to properly make amends. Since Leo has lost his wits anyway, I won't let the Lin family approach again. This time, I'll surely make you the most honored lady. Don't leave. Ruowei, I beg your forgiveness." My elder brother came to fetch me, sternly commanding the servants. "This man is harassing an official's family, vile and suspicious. Beat him soundly." After that, peace finally returned. Several years later, I attended a banquet for the Princess of Nanan's birthday. While chatting with the other ladies, I kept feeling a young matron's gaze fixed upon me. She was beautiful and gentle, looking, yet entirely unfamiliar. I'd never seen her before. A lady whispered to me, "This is the new Madame Zhao, remarried wife of the Marquis of Zhongshan. Last year, Shui Zheng's father passed away. His family went through great efforts to secure his inheritance of the noble title. So this is Shui Zheng's new wife. What does she want from me?" After a while, I became engrossed in a pleasant conversation with another lady and forgot about this incident. It wasn't until the banquet ended and I went to change clothes that I noticed Lady Zhao hesitantly waiting for me nearby. I walked over and raised an eyebrow. "Is there something you need?" Lady Zhao seemed somewhat timid. She clenched her fists, as if steeling herself, before asking, "Miss Huang, I know I shouldn't be so forward, but there's something I truly wish to ask you." I nodded. "Go ahead and ask." Better than having her bother me with strange behavior, Lady Zhao whispered, "My husband is such a good man, so devoted to you. How could you bear to divorce him?" "Me, huh?" she said softly. "He has never forgotten you, always murmuring your name. When he looks at me, it's as if he's seeing someone else. I secretly entered his study once. It was filled with your portraits and love poems he wrote for you." She wiped the corner of her eye and said, "If a man would remember me like this, I could die without regrets." After a moment of speechlessness, I said to Lady Zhao, "You haven't been in the capital for long, have you?" Lady Zhao nodded. "My father was promoted for his flood control merits, and we've been in the capital for less than half a year." "All right then, the exact same thing. Shui Zheng really never gets tired of this trick. He doesn't even get bored of it himself, playing games with his own illusions. And quite elaborately at that." Seeing my look of disdain, Lady Zhao stiffened her expression and said, "Miss Huang, you must not trample on someone's genuine feelings." I sneered. "Genuine feelings? Would someone with genuine feelings poison me?" "Lady Chui, you'd better do some proper investigation before coming to me. Shui Zheng's genuine feelings are truly worthless." Seeing Lady Zhao's confused expression, I ignored her further and turned to leave. Half a month later, she arranged to meet me at a restaurant, following the principle of saving a life. I chose to go. Lady Zhao exchanged a few pleasantries with me, then began to speak hesitantly. I said frankly, "My elder brother has been promoted to governor of Fuzhou. Next month, I'll be going with him. I hear they've opened maritime trade there. The economy is thriving, with ships coming and going endlessly, even Persian merchants with blue eyes and blonde hair. The world is vast, and I intend to see it properly." Lady Zhao looked at me in surprise and whispered, "Miss Huang, I truly envy you." After saying this, she took a deep breath and asked, "Are the rumors true? Did my husband really treat you that way? I replied calmly, yes. Shui Zheng isn't normal. He only desires what he cannot have. When his former wife Lady Lin was alive, he didn't cherish her. After she passed, he lost his appetite and pined bitterly. Later, he married me but didn't value me either. He bullied me, persecuted me, nearly left me without a grave. Yet after I left him, he put on this act of profound affection and nostalgia. Don't you find him absurd? Lady Zhao understood and suddenly covered her face, weeping. Had I known, I would have investigated thoroughly before agreeing to this marriage. What am I to do now? Woe is me. There will always be naive young women who fall for such deceit. I sighed, leaned close to Lady Zhao's ear, and whispered a few confidential words. Lady Zhao froze for a moment, then revealed an eerie smile and said, "Is that true? Thank you. Thank you. No need for formalities." On the way back, Sky asked me, "Miss, what did you say to Lady Zhao? She seems like a completely different person now." I smiled and said, "Naturally, a way to escape this predicament. That year when Shui Zheng was nearly assassinated, it was actually due to a personal vendetta. In his youth, while handling a case carelessly, he wrongfully killed an innocent woman. He thought the matter had been buried and forgotten since no official pursued it and no civilian raised it. But little did he know the woman's brother was a renowned vigilante in the martial world. That vigilante returned from his travels and discovered his sister had died unjustly. To avenge her, he pursued the truth for many years, only identifying Shui Zheng as the culprit when Shui turned 40. So he seized the opportunity and assassinated him. If it weren't for me that time, Shui Zheng would certainly be dead. Over these years, I've been secretly sending people to track down that vigilante's whereabouts. And now I've already leaked Shui Zheng's information to that person ahead of time. I estimate it won't be long before that vigilante arrives in the capital. Does someone like Shui Zheng even deserve to die of old age? I believe the Zhao family knows what to do. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Shui Zheng, this is the grand gift I've meticulously prepared for you.